Hello again. The dishonest lengths to which anti-racists and left-wingers will go in their attempts to portray the entire British nation as racist bigots is simply extraordinary. If the royal family can be dragged into some controversy involving ethnicity or race, so much the better. Of course, as in most ideological campaigns of this sort, truth does rather tend to be the first casualty. I dare say that quite a few viewers saw that a racial slur, described as the N-word, had been found in a catalogue of jewellery belonging to the royal family. A catalogue by the Royal Collection Trust apparently contained this awful word more than 40 times. Now, anybody reading this in a newspaper article, and I give a link to one about the business in the description to this video, will at once jump to the conclusion that the N-word, as it is described, is that awful word which no respectable person has ever used in their life. Certainly one I've never used myself. Very idea. Can you imagine a catalogue prepared by people connected with Buckingham Palace scattering the N-word about freely in some publication? Disgraceful. God. No wonder they treat that Meghan Markle woman so shabbily. What a bunch of racists. Except, of course, the word referred to as a racial slur, the N-word in that catalogue, was not the one that everybody associates with the expression N-word at all. I shall now do something very daring, and I'm going to use out loud a racial slur on YouTube. This should get the complaints flying off to YouTube in next to no time for violating the community standards. Here is the Penguin Book of Modern Speeches. A fairly respectable publication, I think you'll find. It's got speeches by everybody. Charles de Gaulle, Kennedy, Harold Wilson, even, of course, Barack Obama. I turn to page 329 of this book and quote from Martin Luther King's speech made in 1963, the one sometimes referred to as "I Have a Dream." Ready? Stop up your ears if this famous and revered speech is likely to offend you by the fact that it contains racial slurs. 100 years later, we must face the tragic fact that the Negro is still not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself an exile in his own land. Yes, that's the N-word in that catalogue that newspapers and television expressed such horror about. It was actually the word Negro, which is used frequently by Martin Luther King, 4 times in the short passage I read, and of course by all other black leaders. It is not a racial slur at all, but rather an old-fashioned and rather outdated word for black people, which few people use these days. I don't use it myself these days. Oh, wait a moment. Few people other, of course, than black people themselves. In the description to this video, I also give a link to an academic journal published by Howard University in Washington, D.C. This is an Ivy League college in the United States which has historically been a favoured place of academic learning for African Americans. They produce an academic publication called the Journal of Negro Education. Seriously, to suggest that the word Negro is a racial slur is scandalous. It was used by black leaders all the time and is still used in the most prestigious black university in America. What on earth is wrong with people these days? I'm sure that the white journalists making up these silly stories about the N-word must know all this just as well as I do. They can also find the web page for the Journal of Negro Education in the United States. Instead, they wish to attack the royal family and pretend that this country is racist, and so dream up madness like this. The N-word indeed. I need hardly say that neither Martin Luther King nor the Howard University in Washington would ever have used the actual N-word under any circumstances, because that is a racial slur. The word Negro, on the other hand, is used in academic circles, black academic circles in America, and a black academic journal with that word in the title is published freely and discussed. The N-word.